Hello everyone and welcome to this video exploring the difference between CMD and entry point in Docker files. I have an empty directory here with well, it's not empty, it has a Docker file in it, which I have opened up in the upper part of the screen. And I'm going to create a very simple image from the Python 3 base image. And let's start with a CMD command, and we'll say the command is echo as the executable and the parameter is hello. I'll save that, and then docker build, we'll tag it as foo from this directory. It builds it really quickly, and then we can run that container. We can run a container from that image rather, and this is called foo. So we run that, it prints hello, and then it exits. So this is this is expected, most likely, but what we don't really see here is what is actually executing this. What binary is used to execute this command? And it's my understanding that the default entry point for these Docker containers is using the bin/sh executable and then with the -c parameter. So bin/sh is a very small, simple shell. It's kind of like bash, except it's not as robust. It's very small, and it's used to execute commands using this -c option. We'll say like, okay, bin/sh execute the following command that comes after this -c. So in this case, it's echo. So when we explicitly define this entry point, rather than it being the entry point underneath the hood, and we go ahead and rebuild this container, and then we run the container, we see that it doesn't print hello, but it prints just an empty line. And that's also kind of confusing because it's the way that we wrote this command in the list or the array format as the executable and the argument. So what's happening here is the entry point is actually bin/sh-c, and the argument is echo. And when you do echo on the command line with no argument, it just echoes an empty line. And that's what's happening. It's not catching this this argument here. So if we did want to print hello using this entry point and command combination, we would actually have to just make our command echo space hello. So when this gets ran, and let's actually just rebuild and run it again. So I built it, and then I'm going to run, and it prints hello. So what's happening is the entry point is bin/sh-c, and then we're passing in this value here as the argument to -c. So it's executing that. So what if we want to use a different entry point? Let's say since we're using Python 3, let's make our entry point Python 3, and then -c. Python also has a -c option exactly the same as bin/sh, where it will execute the following command, so the next parameter. So we're saying Python 3-c execute echo hello. Let's just go ahead and build this and run it again. And as you probably guessed, this wouldn't work because echo is not a Python function. So this error message is actually coming from the Python interpreter. It's a syntax error. So if we did want to print hello, we would have to do it in a Pythonic way using Python functions. We could use print and then hello. And now we're passing this value as our argument to Python 3-c. So let's rebuild that and then run it, and we see hello. So what we've done now is we've changed the default entry point to be Python instead of bin/sh. From the command line, if you wanted to override the command, you can do that from the command line, by passing it as the final argument to your Docker run command. So I'm saying Docker run, and then IT is for an interactive and terminal pseudo terminal TTY device, so we can actually see the standard out. It's not really important. Just remember -IT if you want to get the standard out. And then the last argument here is going to be our command. So if we want to override this print hello, we could do something like print by, and then let's try to run that, and it prints by. So that's, and you could do anything. You could do import, I don't know, what's something we can do? Import time, and then time dot sleep for a second, and then print awake now or something. So it would sleep for a second, print awake now. So you can basically put any Python code in there as your command. Now, what if we don't have a command and we just have an entry point? So I'm going to have to rebuild this image now. Clear the screen, and let's run it just with no command. And it says argument expected for the -C option. So what that means is we need to pass it an argument. If we did want to, we could do, right, so just like print something, and then that prints it. So your command follows the entry point. And if you wanted, in this case with Python, there's a -I option for an interactive session with the interpreter. So if we change -C to -I and rebuild the image and run it with no arguments, it brings us to the interactive shell. So now we have like whatever. We're basically using Python 3. So I hope that kind of clarified some things, and maybe you learned something from this. It's definitely a question that boggled me when I was first learning Docker, and still to this day I have to go back and remind myself the difference between entry point and command. And there are some creative ways you can use a combination of these two to achieve your goals. Just remember that the entry point by default, if it's not explicitly defined, is bin/sh-c, and then the command is the arguments that are the arguments for the entry point. The command are the arguments for the entry point. The command are the arguments for the entry point. The entry point is the first thing that gets executed when the container runs, and then the command is the argument for the entry point. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.